Hi, welcome back. So this is the last video in the little series I'm doing on how I prep my records for sale, get them cleaned and graded and listed online or ready for my antique mall booth or a flea market or a record fair. So at this point, I've got a stack of records that are freshly cleaned, re-sleeved. They're already identified in Discogs with my little stickers. They're ready for me to do the final grading and listing. So let's go through a couple of examples. First off, we've got Gershwin's An American in Paris. Looks like it's in really good shape. So I've got my little sticker here, so I can pop that release number in here, 4749166. Boom, there it is, comes right up. Okay, now let's look at it. The cover is still in the original shrink. It's got some wear on the corners, but the spine is good. There's no major creases. Easily a VG Plus on the cover. The vinyl itself looks fantastic. So I use the Goldmine standards for grading, which is the same standards that Discogs uses. And it's a scale from poor all the way up to mint, with a whole bunch of gradings in between. The full scale is poor, fair, good, good plus, very good plus, near mint, and mint. We'll talk a little bit about each of those, but generally speaking, I don't sell records that are any worse than good plus. There are exceptions for exceptionally valuable records. I might sell a G or good copy of, just because there's still some value to it, even though it's barely playable, just for collector value, right? I mean, obviously you wouldn't want to play it a whole lot and ruin your needle, but for example, Parliament Funkadelics Maggot Brain's a perfect example. I've got a really knackered copy of that. It's scratched to heck. It's a G plus, or it's a good at best. But even in that condition, it's still worth like $30. It plays through. It doesn't skip. So I still have it in my collection. I'm waiting for that upgrade copy. Now, at the other end of the scale is mint. Mint records, according to Goldmine, they actually say it quite well here. And they basically say these are perfect in every way, often rumored but rarely seen. The idea is that a mint record that's been opened is super rare, right? That often there are imperfections in manufacture that even with a brand new record would still disqualify it from being mint. That said, I don't grade any opened record as mint. I just don't. There are too many ways that it can be considered not mint, so I just don't do it. I will list records as mint if they are sealed, but I make the notation on there that it is presumed mint, meaning that I can't tell if it's mint because it's unopened, but it's factory sealed, so I presume that it's in mint condition. Even in those cases, I may grade the vinyl as mint, but I'll seldom grade the cover as mint, even on a brand new record, because even on a brand new record that's been handled, there's a good chance there's corner dings and so forth. Rarely I will, but generally I don't. Near mint records, on the other hand, are visually perfect. They might have just one tiny little hairline or something in there, but generally there's not a flaw on the record. Those are super rare as well. You don't see me grade too many records as near mints, and if I do, guaranteed it's perfect. VG Plus, on the other hand, these are great player copies. They're going to sound fantastic, no surface noise to speak of, but there may be some minor scuffing or some hairlines. I'll define hairlines here in a minute. On the record, scuffs are common. Scuffs come from just the paper sleeve and rustling around in the cover a little bit. You'll see faint little scuffs on the surface just from handling wear like that. They don't really affect the sound at all, paper scuffs like that, and neither generally do light hairlines. So a hairline is basically, it's like a scratch, but so fine that it is inaudible when played. Any scratch that is audible doesn't qualify as a hairline. So their scratches kind of come in three flavors in my book. There's the hairline, an inaudible, barely perceptible mark on the vinyl. The deeper hairline, which or a light scratch as you might call it, might add to some surface noise. You might be able to hear it in the very quiet parts of the music. Doesn't cause any skipping, and you can't feel that scratch with your fingernail. You can run your fingernail very lightly over the surface of the record, and you can't feel it at all. And then lastly, there is a full-on scratch. Now those are where you can feel it with your fingernail. It's definitely audible. If it causes a skip, then I won't sell the record, generally speaking. If it doesn't cause a skip, then I'm going to grade it accordingly, G+ at best, for anything with a feelable scratch. But it has to play through for me to do that. So let's look at the record on hand here. So side 1 here has some light paper scuffing on one side of the record. That's pretty typical to see paper scuffing only on one side of the record. It's one of the ways you can tell it's a paper scuff. And there's a couple of hairlines there as well. Side 2, yeah, again, a little bit of paper scuffing there, and one little hairline right there. This is a solid VG+. It's really shiny. Get it in the right light, you can see that paper scuff, but it's a really nice copy. Not anywhere near mint, but the few flaws that are on here are reasonable. For VG+, Goldmine says, a good description of a VG+ record is, except for a couple of minor things, this would be near mint. So what are those minor things? It says slight signs of wear, including light scuffs or very light scratches, those kind of the paper scuffs and the hairlines I talked about, that don't affect the listening experience. Slight warps that do not affect the sound are okay. It's got to be slight for me to consider any kind of warp VG+ in my book. Minor signs of handling are okay, such as telltale marks around the center hole, or spindle marks as they call it, where somebody's carelessly tried to put the record on the turntable and rubbed the label around on the spindle. There might, let's see, some light ring wear or discoloration should be barely noticeable. That's about right on the cover. So ring wear would be a ring pattern of wear on the cover. Sometimes on really old knackered records you'll see it where it's just really worn in a ring-like fashion where the record was. Goldmine will allow very light ring wear at VG+. I'll occasionally do that, but it's got to be just barely there. Little ring wear on VG+, or VG on the other hand, is pretty acceptable in my book. Let's see. They also say on covers, VG+ can have minor seam wear or even a split up to 1 inch long. I'm iffy on that, whether any split should qualify as VG+. I've had people complain. Generally, if there's any split in the cover, it's VG at best in my book. So anyhow, this is clearly a VG+, both on the vinyl and on the cover. So let's get it listed. So what I'll do is I need to pick a price. That's kind of the key thing here. So I'll look at the recent sales history and see, here's a VG+ with a near mint sleeve sold for $3. Here's a VG+ that sold for $5. Both of those were in Europe. Here's a VG+ sold for $7 here in the US. Near mint for $7, VG+ for $2. It's kind of all over the place. So between $2 and $7 for sales of this in VG+ condition in the US. So I'm going to kind of split the difference, take a look at what releases are for sale right now to see where I'd be positioned. So if I look at VG Plus copies out here in the US, the cheapest one is $6. So I tell you what, $5 seems like a good split the difference kind of a price for me. Be the lowest listed one out there, but it's less than more than the very lowest that have sold recently. So we'll say listed for sale. We'll set the condition VG plus, and I'm going to say for a description, vinyl has a number. Some light paper scuffing and a hairline or two. Cover has light corner wear, still in original shrink. Yep. The item location I put in a very brief description of the release because I print those out on my little labels. So I'm going to say this is a 1981 Terre Haute repress, and price at $5, listed for sale. That's all there is. So this goes into a bin, and when I've batched up 100 or so that I've entered, I'll then print my labels that you see on all of my listed records. So if you're stopping by my booth at a record fair or looking at my stock in my Antique Mall booth, you'll see all of my cleaned records that have been re-sleeved have a nice label in the corner that lists the release, the catalog number, the condition, and a brief description of the release. That's what that is. I use the location thing in here. Okay, we're going to do one more. Try and keep this video from being too long. So we're going to do Al Green's Have a Good Time. Got my little sticker here. R11903936. There he is. Alright, this one goes for pretty good money. Median is $8.50. So what you got for me here, Al? Let's see. The cover has pretty significant corner wear, a little bit of surface wear, but the ring wear only on the back, and that's pretty faint. But somebody's written their name on the front of the jacket. That automatically makes it a VG at best, and I'd say this is a solid VG. So, alright, VG for the cover. Let's look at the vinyl. Ooh, okay. So, this is one that was, when I did my initial spot check, I was hoping this would clean up a little bit, but yeah, some of these scratches are pretty significant. But given that the record goes for reasonable money, let's take a look. So this scratch here, yep, I can barely feel that with my fingernail. That's not a good sign. And some more scratches on this side, but they're fainter, so it's just a lot of surface wear here. I imagine this is going to play with some surface noise. So here's the thing. This is, it's either a good or a good plus at best, given just the visual inspection I've given it here. The question is, will I even list this for sale? Or does it go in the dollar bin? Or is it so scratched that it's just heading to Goodwill? This is one I'm going to have to play test. So bear with me. I'm going to be off camera and I'm going to play this. I'm going to keep talking. So I'm going to play the worst bits of this. You can see here, right there's where I can feel the scratch. And then on the other side, the very first track has the very worst of the hairlines and so forth. So that'll be a good test of the surface noise. Alright, so I'm over here, my turntable. I don't know if you can see me. I don't think you can. Should have positioned the camera better, my bad. So let's play that bit with the scratch. So the last track on side 1. Yep, so you can hear on every revolution, you can hear that scratch. Frankly, it doesn't sound that bad otherwise. And it's playing through. It's not skipping. Now ordinarily I'd play the whole song, but for the interest of this video, I'm just going to cut it short for now. But that's a good sign. Despite how bad that looked, it actually played pretty good. Now let's play the first track on side 2. That had a lot of those hairlines. Yep, and I would expect there to be some crackle, as you can hear. So yeah, it's playing with some surface noise. You can hear that snap crackle pop in there. Yeah, there was also a decent scuff on this track as well. So ordinarily I'd play this whole track through in order to see if it skipped on those worst bits. In the interest of brevity here, I'm going to not do that. I actually will listen to it later before, and I'll revise the listing if I need to. But let's assume it doesn't skip and go through the rest of the process. So it didn't skip, or I'm going to check later to make sure it didn't, but let's assume it didn't. Given the condition, the fact that we heard a lot of surface noise there on that first track, we had an audible tick on every revolution for that scratch on the other side. I'm going to call this a G+, a good plus, because it does play pretty clean, except in those quiet bits. So let's look. So at a good plus for the vinyl and a VG are very good for the cover. What have sales been like? Let's see. There have not been any good plus copies sold, but some VG copies have sold in the $5 to $8 range. And if we look at the ones for sale, again, there are no good plus ones, but the cheapest, very good, is $6.50. So this is a tough one. Realistically, being that there's a very good plus copies selling for $8, I could probably sell this for $3, or I could list it for $3. The question is anyone going to buy a G plus copy of this record? I'm going to give it a shot. I've had a lot of luck selling G plus and VG records. Some people, I guess, just aren't as picky as me. And I think as long as they don't skip and they're not too noisy, people are pretty happy with them. So we'll try selling this one for $3 and see what that gets us. So sell the item, good plus on the media, very good on the sleeve. My description is going to be a bit more wordy here. So we're going to say a fair number of scuffs and shallow scratches. One can be felt with fingernail, leading to some surface noise, but frankly it plays a lot better than it looks. Cover has moderate corner wear, faint ring wear on back, and someone has written their name in ballpoint on the front. And this is the 1976 Waddell press, and we're going to list it for $3. That's it. So that's another one down. These take longer to grade, the lower graded ones, because I have to play test them, which is another reason I don't like to sell records that are lower graded like that is because it takes more time, but they sell for less. And there's more likely of having somebody complain about the quality. Here's an example. I sold a VG record to a guy, played perfectly well on my system. It's a higher dollar record. So I played the whole record through just to make sure it played just fine. It did. It skipped on his system. Didn't skip on mine. Says to me that either his system was a little more finicky, or perhaps it wasn't set up properly. Maybe he had the anti-skate set wrong, something like that. But I'm not going to second guess the guy's setup. I have to assume he knows what he's doing. So I didn't fight it. Took the record back, issued him a refund. But I want to avoid those situations. So generally speaking, with records like this at $3 and the condition it's in, it's a gamble. It might wind up being more trouble than it's worth, but we'll see. So yeah, that's kind of an example of how I do the grading. If you want to learn more about Goldmine grading, I will post a link to their the grading standards with this video, and you'll often see a guide to grading posted or on a poster in my Antique Mall booth or at my record fair tables as well. So I like to educate people as I go along as to how to properly grade a record. So that's it. If you have any questions about anything that you've seen with this whole process, feel free to shoot me a message. You can reach me at deadwaxrecordsva@gmail.com, or you can post a comment on this video and I'll try to respond to it. Yeah, that's it. Have a great day.